Hello everybody and welcome to episode 20 of my Infitech series. My name is Khan and I will be your host. Before we get started with the meat of today's episode, I want to quickly say thank you. As of the recording of this episode, I have 214 subscribers, which is just amazing to me. It's really incredible. About a week ago, my girlfriend let me know that I had hit 200 subscribers and just stuns me. It just really blows me away. So I just really do want to tell you that I very much appreciate it. I very much appreciate your support and encouragement and your kindness and all of the great things that all of you represent. It's really wonderful. Okay, that's enough feels. Let's get on today with the Distillation Tower. Yes. Now, the Distillation Tower is a multi-block structure in GregTech. And in a previous episode, I had made the refinery from Pneumatic Craft. And if you remember, the refinery would take oil and break it down into 4 different components: diesel, kerosene, gasoline, and the liquefied petroleum gas. Now, the Distillation Tower works very similarly in that it will take in oil and it will break it down into some components. Now, there's a couple of things that I think are very strange about the Distillation Tower, and I'll talk about that as we go along. But this is the control block here for the Distillation Tower, and as you can see, it is a 3x6x3. It is a 6 tall structure, 3x3. And you can see you need the controller, you need an input hatch, 5 output hatches, an output bus, an energy hatch, and a maintenance hatch, and then clean stainless steel casings for the rest. And it says 26 at least, but I came up with a much larger number than 26, so I'm not sure how that was calculated. I also don't know why it's called clean stainless steel casings, because there was no such thing as a dirty stainless steel casing. So I feel like they could have just called it a stainless steel casing, but hey, whatever. Now, this Distillation Tower is a bit on the expensive side to make, and for a couple of reasons. The first is this control block itself. First of all, it's based upon an extreme voltage machine hull. Now, by itself, that's not so bad. It requires titanium, and I have titanium. That's okay. But it also required these electric pumps, the extreme voltage electric pumps. Now, for the most part, that was okay. It's stainless steel and some titanium, but the extreme voltage motor, which is mostly copper, aluminum, titanium. Now, this is the annealed copper, which is different from regular copper. So regular copper is just copper that you smelt in a furnace, but the annealed copper, you have to take the smelted copper, and put it into the electric blast furnace with some oxygen. So it takes a lot more power and a lot more time to make. But another thing was this neodymium rod, and it had to be magnetized. Now, I had neodymium. I'm not exactly sure where I got it from, but I did have some neodymium laying around, so that wasn't a big deal. But in order to polarize it, I had to put it into a medium voltage polarizer, and a high voltage polarizer maybe. But anyway, up to this point, I'd only been using a basic low voltage polarizer. So I had to actually build the higher tiered polarizer just to be able to polarize these neodymium rods. So that added to the total overall cost of things when you think of it that way. And then I needed these energy flow circuits, and I needed 4 of them. So each one of them requires a processor board, which is silicon plates, and extreme voltage wiring, which is made out of platinum. So I had to make those out of platinum. And then these engraved Lapotron chips are made from Lapotron crystals, which, if you're familiar with industrial craft, you know the Lapotron crystal requires all of these parts to make. So, and I think even to engrave these pieces, I needed to have a blue lens, which could be made out of opal or various other parts. And I needed the high voltage precision laser engraver to do that and the assembler. So I actually had to essentially create all of the infrastructure just to even be able to make this thing. So that added it to, the total kind of cost just to come up with this thing. And that's just to build the control block itself. Now, the hatches and the buses and the energy hatch and the maintenance hatch, those are all pretty basic, and I've had to make those before for the other multi-block structures. No problems there. But then we come to these clean stainless steel casings, and I believe I need 40 of them. Like I said, I don't know how this one came up with 26, but I came up with 40. I know it says 26 at least, but I don't know what the other 14 blocks would be, because I just can't imagine what else you would put onto this structure. But anyway, I had to make 40 of these things. And these stainless steel casings are made from 6 stainless steel plates along the side and a stainless steel frame box, which is made from 8 rods. Well, you get 2 of them for 8 rods. 8 rods is 4 stainless steel ingots. So essentially it's 2 stainless steel ingots for each stainless steel frame box, plus 6 more. So essentially 8 stainless steel for each casing. 40 casings times 8, 320 stainless steel, 5 stacks of stainless steel to make the casings. Now, the stainless steel itself, not a hard thing to come up with. It is a combination of chromium, manganese, iron, and nickel. And I had plenty of that stuff laying around. No big deal to make. But it has to be cooked in the electric blast furnace. And let's see if we can find it real quick here. There we go, the electric blast furnace. So each one of these requiring 204,000 EU and 85 seconds. So you can imagine 320 of these times 85 seconds times that much power. It took a long time to make. Just in making the stainless steel, it just takes a long time to sit and wait. And I do not think there's a way to make the electric blast furnace work faster. I haven't tried to see if I could overclock it by giving it more power, and maybe that's a possibility, but it already uses so much power that I don't even want to try and overclock it, because the amount of power it would then use would just be ridiculous. So I haven't even tried that. And I think the only other thing you can do is build multiple blast furnaces to make, the materials that you might need. So just a crazy amount of energy and time going into making this distillation tower. But now having that, I should have all of the pieces that I need for the distillation tower. So I'm going to take all those out. And I'm going to build this distillation tower downstairs. And over here somewhere. Now, I just learned this recently, and I guess this has always been a thing. I've never known about it. But you shouldn't build a multi-block structure across chunk boundaries. And that goes for any mod, any multi-block structure from any mod. Basically, the problem being that if one chunk loads and the other chunk doesn't, then only a portion of your multi-block structure has loaded. And then what happens in that case is going to depend on how the multi-block is coded. And basically it seems like the standard answer is unpredictable results may occur. So I was having some issues with having my game crash, sometimes in the middle of playing, sometimes loading up the world and it just not loading up. And I had just some other weird issues that were occurring. So then I looked into it and I discovered this. And my electric blast furnace was the only thing that I had built that had crossed a chunk boundary. I didn't look at chunk boundaries when I made any of the other multi-block structures. I just made them, and it seemed to be okay. But that was the only one. And when I moved it so it was all within one chunk, suddenly I didn't have as many issues. Now, that still confuses me a lot. I don't understand a lot of that stuff. I'm not a programmer. I have this chunk loader here, and this chunk loader is set to a 7x7 area. So the entirety of the blast furnace should be loaded all at the same time and never be unloaded because of that. But I guess in starting up the world, it's possible that one chunk would get loaded before another, and especially if there was already some type of activity going on in the multi-block, something could happen. Those are all speculations on my part. I'm sure a lot of you guys know way more about this stuff than I do. I find it a little bit interesting and fascinating, but I just found it amazing to myself that I had no clue that you were supposed to keep track of chunk boundaries when building a multi-block structure. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to turn on multi-block, or by using my F9, I turn on my chunk boundary so I can see. And as I said, this is a 3x3, and I should be able to build it right in this area as long as I put it up against the wall and to the left of my light there. I should be okay. So we'll go ahead and build this thing, and as usual, we put the control block sort of front center, if you will. Now, this distillation tower has an input hatch, an output bus, and 5 output hatches. If I haven't mentioned it before, a hatch is for liquids, fluids, I should say. A hatch is for fluids, and a bus is for items. So an input hatch takes in fluids, an input bus takes in items, an output hatch outputs fluids, and an output bus outputs items. So the input hatch is, of course, the oil that's going to go into it, and the outputs are what it produces when it operates. I then have an energy hatch as well, which is used to supply power to the distillation tower, and of course the standard maintenance hatch, which you have to have on everything you make in GregTech. But I already realized that I don't want this over here. Go ahead and dig that back up, because I actually want it to be somewhere over in this area. I want it to be closer to my main power storage, which is that battery buffer right there. So I'm going to go ahead and dig out some of this area, put it together, and then I'll come back once that is done. Right, the distillation tower. Look how shiny it is. So cool. I like it. So as usual, we'll slap some duct tape on the maintenance hatch, and yep, no more errors there. So my input hatch is here because I plan on using this gigantic iron tank to store oil, the oil that will get fed into this, obviously. And then the outputs are over here. Now the output bus for items has to be on the bottom, and then you put the 5 output hatches. I think they have to be on top of it, but maybe not, but that's the way I did it. Seems simplest. And then of course the energy hatch back here. Now this is the first thing I think is strange, and it's not a big deal. It's just one thing that I find odd or unusual, I guess, because the distillation tower, if you spell it correctly, which apparently I can't do, the distillation tower, as I mentioned before, is based upon you have to make it from the extreme voltage machine hull with the extreme voltage parts and whatnot, but it only actually requires medium voltage. So I've got a medium voltage energy hatch here to run it. And just for whatever reason, I find that to be strange and unusual. It's just me. It's not a big deal or anything, but it's one of those things where it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that what it requires is so much, or what it requires to make it isn't anywhere close to what kind of power it actually requires. I just realized that I don't have any cabling, so I'm going to run up here real quick and grab some medium voltage cables, which I think are I don't have any medium voltage cables. Oh yeah, I do. They're right there. There you go. Medium voltage annealed copper cables. Perfect. So first thing, of course, we're going to have to do is going to have to supply this thing with power. And what I am going to do, and this is the power coming from my nuclear, and I think my nuclear is mostly run out of the thorium I've been using, but I'll change that later. But anyway, so I'm going to have to change this. But what I want to do is I want to put down, I've made a battery buffer here, high voltage battery buffer, and excuse me, I'm not sure where I want to put this exactly. I think what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to go ahead and cut this cabling out from the nuclear power. It's going to have to rerun it anyway, but I need to give myself some space to work. And can I remove this, or is that my room? No, I can remove this. Okay. Get rid of some of this here. Clear up some space to work. Just like that for now. And I will clean stuff up later, but for now I just need to build what I need to build. Okay, so what I want to do is take this high voltage battery buffer, and for right now I'm just going to put it here, like so. Yeah. And then what I'm going to do is I have a transformer that will take the high voltage and turn it into medium voltage, and I'm going to put that there. Let's move this torch right there for now. And so I can use this copper cable that will take power from the transformer and into my distillation tower, and get rid of that. Then I can put power from the battery buffer into the transformer. Yeah, that sounds right. And now I can put some batteries in here. And yep, that battery will then feed into the transformer, turn into medium voltage, and run into the distillation tower. Perfect. And now, so now what I need is some oil. And I've been collecting oil at various points in time. Do I have it in that one? No, but I do need a bucket. So let me take one of those. Oops. Misclicking all over the place. So I've got a little bucket of some oil here that I've pumped up at various points, as I said. And I think I can take a bucket. No, I can't get a bucket out like that. Oh, bummer. I thought that I could. Okay. That kind of sucks. Okay, let me go get a tank. Okay, so now I can get a... Oh. I can't get a bucket of oil. Oh, yeah. Some of the oil I cannot put into a bucket. That's why it wouldn't let me do that. So that's oil GC, that's oil G, that's all it says, oil GC. Well, that pretty much is not what I wanted to see. But that is okay, I can work with that. So let's put this back in insert mode and extract this maybe. So it's going back out, and then I'm going to stop it. Okay, there's 4,000 millibuckets in there. So there's 4 buckets of the oil in there. Now, I hope this works. Now I'm worried that it's not going to work. But I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put it right there for now. And go like that and extract. Extract? Okay. So it's taking in the oil. It's got oil in there. So it's got 4,000 liters or 4 buckets of oil. So if we use our soft hammer, we can turn this on. And now it's running. So if we go over here and look at the top hatch, you'll see this is filling up with methane gas. And then the next one down has glyceryl trinitrate. And then we have sulfuric acid. And then we have gasoline. And then we have lubricant. And there's nothing in the output bus. Now, I'm using the distillation tower to process oil, but you can use the distillation tower to process some other things as well, I think. But this is all I'm using it for, so it's pretty much all that I am aware of right now. And as you can see, it doesn't really take too long. It's working pretty quickly. This, again, I don't know if you supply it with more power, if it would work faster or not. But there we go. So it's processed as much of those 4 buckets as it could. There's a little bit left over, and then it shut off. So again, we can look. Now, this is the next thing that I think is very strange about the distillation tower. So remember, we started with 4,000 liters of oil. And now I have 3,700 liters of methane and 248 liters of this glyceryl trinitrate, 3,900 liters of sulfuric acid, 3,900 liters of gasoline, and 900 liters of lubricant. So say 1,000, 5,000, 6, 7, 8, 9,000, 10, 11, 12, just call it about 13. So somehow, starting off with 4,000 liters of oil, I end up with 13,000 some odd liters of other fluids. And the main reason why I think that's weird is it's hard to believe that a device in GregTech would actually provide, you would end up with more stuff than you started with. Usually it's the other way around, if anything. But I'm not going to complain about it for now. So the next situation I have is that I don't know what the sulfuric acid is used for. I know you can make some acid batteries with it, but that seems to be it. So I don't know what else. I don't know if that's useful for anything else, and I just don't know about it. But for now, I'm not going to worry about the sulfuric acid because I use lithium to make my batteries. So I don't really need to make acid-based batteries. But the methane can be burned and produce power, which is cool. And of course, the gasoline can be burned and produce power. Now, the lubricant, I don't necessarily need it. There's a lot of situations with the cutting saw where if you use lubricant instead of water, the process is faster, and I think it uses less power. But other than that, the lubricant, I don't know, has many other uses for it. Actually, that's not true. I do know that you can use the lubricant for... Oh, I thought it could be used in some recipes, but I could be wrong. Anyway, that's what's that. So the sulfuric acid and the lubricant, I don't have a lot of use for at this point in time, but I might later. I don't know. I'll probably end up just pumping it into drums and storing it in case I do need it. But going back... So the methane gas, as I said, that can be burned to produce power, and the gasoline can obviously be burned to produce power as well. Now, this glyceryl trinitrate can be combined with gasoline. So if I put it into a canning machine and then combine it with... Oh, I can electrolyze it to get some other stuff. But anyway, I can combine it with diesel cells, which is the gasoline in this Modpack, or in this, the way that it all works out, it's the same as gasoline, and I end up with nitrodiesel, which can also be burned to produce power, but it produces more power, if you will, than the regular gasoline or diesel will. The only issue with that is you can see in 4,000 liters, I created only 250 liters of that, but I created 4,000 liters of the gasoline itself. So that's what, that's a 250 to 4,000 is a 16-to-1 ratio. Does that sound right? 250 times 4 is 1,000 times another 4. Yeah, it's a 16-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to end up with, and then you, when you're making that nitro diesel, let me go back to this. Sorry, I'm a little disjointed here. But when you make this nitro diesel, you combine it with 1,000 diesel and 250 glyceryl trinitrate and 1,000 diesel will make the nitro diesel. So it's a 4-to-1 ratio to make the nitro diesel. but you're getting 16 to 1 out of it. So anyway, the point being that you're going to produce more gasoline than the glycerol trinitrate, and so you can't turn all of the gasoline into nitrodiesel, at least not without storing a bunch of it. So the point of that being that I'm going to have two different burnings. I'm going to have one that's going to burn the regular gasoline that comes out of the distillation tower, and then I'll have another one that's going to burn the nitrodiesel that will produce a little bit extra power. So that's what I'm going to use that, and I've got the stuff upstairs that I need in order to do that with. I have up here, I'll go up here real quick and I'll show you. I've already made these things as well. I have the gas turbine. That's what burns the methane, produces power. I've got 3 turbo diesel generators. That's what's going to burn the gasoline. And then the chemical reactor is what turns the gasoline plus the glycerol trinitrate into the nitrodiesel. But I have to put some of that into cans, so I have to use the fluid canner to can some of the item because of the way that it all works. It doesn't seem like GregTech has a way of just saying, here's a fluid and here's another fluid and combine them together. It always seems to want to have one of them in a can. So whatever, it's just the way it works. But let me put all of this together and with the proper wiring and piping and all that kind of stuff, and I shall return. It's not pretty, but it should work. In theory, it seems to be working at least. Okay, so again, this top line or this top output hatch makes methane, and that's going straight into this turbo gas turbine, which will turn it into high voltage power. Then the gasoline is coming out of here and going into the fluid canner where it will get canned up. And the reason I'm canning the gasoline is because with items in the conduits, I have the ability to put them in a round robin mode, which is what I'm using. So if we look at this, you can see that it extracts those in round robin. And I have 3 different diesel generators, one there, and one there. And actually, now that I think about it, I screwed that up because I didn't want this one to go. So let me take that one back out. And this was actually supposed to be the one to insert it into there. Yeah, there we go. And I also realized that I didn't set these to put the cells back, so you can see that empty cell sitting in the diesel generator there. So I'm going to change these to in and out, extracting, always active, and same thing with this one, always active, and same thing with this. Oops, it was already in and out mode. Always active on the extract, and that's going to get real confusing. So, sorry, I am troubleshooting this as I go along. What I'm going to do is insert on green, extract on brown. Insert on green, extract on brown. And on the top upside of this, extract on brown. But on this side of it, we will extract on in out. Insert on brown, extract on green, red robin enabled. Okay, so I should have 30. I thought I had 32. What happened to the last one? Oh, those last 2 are still in there because I did that. Okay, put those back in there. All right, so the idea is that this fluid canner will can up the gasoline and then evenly distribute them to the chemical reactor and then these 2 bottom diesel generators. So that will basically just turn, take the gasoline and burn somewhat 2/3 of it in these 2 here. Then the other third, and I know the percentages aren't exactly right, but I can fiddle with it later if I need to. But the other third of them will go here, where when there is enough of this glycerol trinitrate, it will combine it and make the nitro diesel, and then that nitro diesel will get sent to this turbo diesel generator, which is right behind it, and it will burn it and make power off of that. So basically I'm making power from this turbo gas turbine and 3 different turbo diesel generators, all running from this one, from the products that come out of this one distillation tower. And I think it should produce a pretty good amount of power. And so one of the reasons why I've made this battery buffer, now this was the battery I started with, and these are the other 3 empty ones that I put in there. You can see I have moved it a little bit, but this is the ones I put in there. So theoretically, if this is, this is using power to run the distillation tower, power, but it should increase in the total amount of power it has in it if this is creating products that are creating more power than they are taking away. At least that would be the working theory, right? So if I take that out, and let's go ahead and grab my my drum of oil here, and I'm going to go ahead and put that drum of oil down there. So that oil will come out and into the hatch, and now the distillation tower is burning it. So we should see, if we look up here at the turbo gas turbine, so many tongue twisters today, you can see that as the methane comes in, it's burning it and turning it into power. Then here we see we've got one of the diesel cells has gone in there, and we're just waiting for enough glyceryl trinitrate, which is 250. And there it goes. Now it's processing it. It'll turn it into the nitro diesel. Just takes a little bit of time. It's not super fast, but it's okay. There we go, nitro diesel, and it already sent that back to this. There you go, it's burning the nitro diesel there. Great. And then these two, each time they get some of this, there you go, there's some gasoline that's going back there. So these will be burning, and maybe I didn't need 2 of them, not entirely sure, but that's how I have it set up for now. So I'm just going to leave it and see how it works. And again, I should be able to see this rising in power, and I can already see that it is rising in power. So even though it is using power to operate the distillation tower, as well as the canning, the fluid canner, and the chemical reactor meter, these are all running off of this power. You can see that it is still increasing in power as it moves along, and pretty good clip of pace that it's moving at too. So I dare say that it's producing quite a bit of power for me, and that is really good. And of course this drum is already empty, and it will be used up and stuff. But again, as I said, I keep finding oil around the world, and currently what I have is these oil drums. So I have 22,000 there, 27,000 there, and then 2 completely full ones there. So that will obviously provide me with a lot of oil to operate this distillation tower. And again, as I said, it's going to go into here. But yeah, another form of power that's probably better than the ones that I've been using so far, which is also really nice and really good. And I still am just amazed at how shiny it is. It looks so cool. I think that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them for me in the comment section below. Don't be afraid to just say hi if you want to. If you're one of my subscribers and you just want to say you've subscribed, I'd love to see that as well. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for your kindness and your support, and I will see you next time.